Hey guys, Probably1701 here, and today we are going to rank the Patrick Troughton stories that I have seen. Now, I've already done a list ranking the ones I haven't seen, basically by the order that I want to see them. So today we're going to look at the other 13 stories, because out of his 21 stories, I've seen 13. And we're going to rank those kind of from my least favorite to my favorite. Keep in mind, this is a fluid list. My opinions on stuff like this are constantly changing, so it's just kind of what was going, kind of the order where my mindset was at the time I made the list, and even when I was making the list, stuff was moving around. I mean, you guys get it, you're Doctor Who fans. It's really hard to, especially something like Troughton's era, which is so good, it's really hard to actually place them in order, one above the other. So for this moment, at least, this is how the 13 stories I've seen by his rank. I'm just including stuff from his era too, not like 3 Doctors, 5 Doctors, 2 Doctors. I may do that in a future list, but just his, era from 66 to 69. And starting in 13th place, I have Fury from the Deep, and it's purely down to the animation. I've talked about Fury's animation before and how much I really don't like it. The story is great. The story is far better than some of the other stories on this list. It's just the animation. The animation is 70 steps back from previous animations. I think of all the animations, this one looks the worst, which is sad considering it's the most recent, but the very cartoonish Scooby-Doo look to it really holds the story back for me. I don't care for it at all. Number 12 on the list is the Faceless Ones. Now, the animation here is pretty good. I'm fine with the animation here. It's the actual story here holding this one back. I just find it a bit boring. Not really that interesting. I don't really care for it. I think it would have worked better maybe as a 4-parter. I don't really engage with the story. It's not a good goodbye for Ben and Polly. They're really just in the first 2 episodes, and then they show back up at the end. And yes, I know it's because of their contracts. I know all that. A couple problems with the animation. I don't like the way Jamie's face is done in the animation. The way his nose is. It looks really weird. Doesn't look like Jamie. And the way the actual aliens look in it, where they actually have semi-faces but not quite, doesn't look right. I love the pictures you see of the actual original makeup when they're really pretty faceless. I like that better. I don't like the style the animation chose to have the aliens' natural faces look. That kind of bugs me a bit. But this is where it lands on the list. Still very watchable, though. In 11th place is the Ice Warriors. Again, I find this one a little drawn out, a little boring. Think it would have worked as the 4-parter. The animated episodes, I think, are fine because episodes 2 and 3 are animated. The Ice Warriors look a little weird, but the rest of the animations are fine. The surviving episodes are pretty nice. I like the one guest actor who plays kind of the older guy who's in charge of everything. I think he does a really good job. I think Troughton is great in it. I like the story. It just drags a little bit and gets a little boring to me. Definitely not the Ice Warriors' best appearance for sure. Let's see what else we have here. Web of Fear. Number 10, I have Web of Fear. Web of Fear, this is lower on the list than a lot of people would have it. I like Web of Fear. We're really getting into the good ones at this point. Web of Fear is really, really good. Maybe it's just the episode 3 that I had to watch in Recon affecting me a little bit. I don't like that when the Brigadier goes out to kind of save the day, pretty much all of his men except him get killed. I don't know why that bothers me. Maybe it just seems a little tropey that only the guy who later becomes a main character is the only one to survive. All of his men get killed. Maybe if 1 or 2 more of them had survived, it wouldn't rub me as weird, but it kind of does. I like this one. I guess maybe it's just the reputation that's built up around it that I think it doesn't quite live up to that. It's still really good, but it does have such a reputation that sometimes it's hard for an episode to live up to the reputation that the fandom and that the internet has built up around it. I still really like it, though. I love its close-knit settings. I love not only the claustrophobia that it really comes up with is really, really good. I actually enjoy that a lot. Let's see. What is the next one on the list? Seeds of Doom. Seeds of Death. I keep doing that. The Seeds of Death is really good. I think it's a much improved story over the Ice Warriors. I like it a lot. I watched this one not too long ago. I find it interesting. I like the cliffhanger when the Doctor and his companions are in the rocket spinning out of control. I think that was a really good cliffhanger. I feel bad for that one guy, the one that's kind of weaselly. And, you get he just wants to survive. He's just a cowardly fella. That some people, that's just their nature. And I felt so bad for him that he died, even though he did try to do the right thing at the end. I like the clever use of weapons to stop the Ice Warriors with the little thing set up. I like the one guy who tried to set up the beacon thing to save everybody. It's just a more improved story over the Ice Warriors, a better outing for the Ice Warriors. I really like the Seeds of Death. In 8th place is the Crotons, which is higher. I know this will be. I'm ranking the Crotons higher than the Web of Fear. What is wrong with me? Again, this list is very fluid and changes fairly often. Please keep that in mind. I would say the Crotons is very underrated. Maybe that's one of the reasons I place the Crotons higher. It's just that Web of Fear has such a good reputation that it's hard to live up to, and the Crotons has such a bad reputation that it's easy for me to like it more because people trash it so bad. It's easier to have a better reputation for it. I enjoyed the Crotons. I think the actual Croton designs really holds it back. I like their little diamond head, but their actual design does look a little silly, especially when they try to move. But I enjoy the story. It's a bit simplistic, but it's a Robert Holmes script. Robert Holmes writes very good dialogue, and I am a sucker for good dialogue. And the dialogue in this story is just fine for me. I like that it not only are they going against the Crotons, which you have a split in the colony as well, where one group of colonists is trying to take over from another group of colonists, so there's a nice little internal struggle there as well. I think there's a lot of good things going on in this story. And Troughton is great, Zoe is great, Jamie is great. I love that scene between Zoe and Troughton when he's like, "What that button do?" "No, wait, I know. No, wait, come back. No, come back. No, wait, go away. I figured it out." I love that whole little exchange right there. It's so cute. It's so adorable. I absolutely love it. Yeah, give the Crotons a watch if you haven't. Number 7 on the list is The Enemy of the World. This is a really good one. Troughton is so good in dual roles here. And I love Salamander. He's such a good villain. I like the bit when he poisons the guy. He's like, "I told you you had one chance." I love that bit. What really sells this for me is, 1, it fills out its 6 episodes really well. 2, his plan of causing the volcanoes and having the group down under there and keeping them convinced they can't go up because the world doesn't exist above ground anymore. What I really like is that Troughton is so nuanced in playing these roles. Like, he plays Salamander different than he plays the Doctor impersonating Salamander. That's phenomenal. But since he is having to play both roles, because at one point the Doctor does impersonate Salamander, which is part of the point of the story. So he's playing Salamander one way, but he's playing the Doctor pretending to be Salamander different. And that's such a subtle nuance. And it's so nice to see. And it's a tremendous acting job. Troughton is such a good actor. And that's really what sells the story. And I think that's why when this story was found, being able to see it visually really improved this one in people's eyes, because it really is a story you need to see to really be able to fully get. In 6th place is Tomb of the Cybermen. This is a good one. Overrated, though. I do think Tomb of the Cybermen is overrated. I think it's still really good, but I don't even think it's Troughton's best Cyberman story. It's got some nice iconic imagery, like when they're all waking up and we see everything thawing out and them coming out of the thing. That's wonderful. That's iconic. The Cyberman design looks pretty good. That's not my favorite design, but I think it looks pretty good. I like the one guy sacrificing himself at the end to hold the door shut. It's such a heroic sacrifice. That's really neat. Troughton's speech he gives to Victoria, about her when she talks about how she misses her father and that our lives are different. That's the exciting thing. No one in the universe can do what we're doing. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful speech. It is a really good episode. I just think it's a bit overrated. I definitely don't think it's Troughton's best Cyberman story. I think it might be his second best Cyberman story, but I don't think it's his best. I do prefer the Moonbase over it. We'll see that further up the list. Let's see. Next on the list is The Invasion, actually. So there's another Cyberman story. I really like The Invasion. I think the animated episodes are done pretty well for the most part. There's that one scene at the end of like episode 4 with the helicopter escape. Things get a little confusing, especially considering it was the first one to be animated. I think the animation does a pretty good job, holds up really well. This is a really good story. We don't even get the Cybermen in it until halfway through. That's why I like why it's just called The Invasion. It keeps the Cybermen being involved a secret until like halfway through the story. That's really cool. The human villain in it, Vaughn, is so good. And that other guy, Packer, whatever his name is, Packer, really hard to tell. You can just tell he's a sadistic little prick. So you have two good human villains in this too. Also, it's nice to see the Brigadier back as fully a Brigadier now. It's also the first story with Corporal, later Sergeant Benton, in it, so it's nice to see them there. This really is a unit story. It's really the first, I guess, unit story when they're officially unit. This very much is a Pertwee story before the Pertwee era. It's like a Pertwee story, but with Troughton. And it's really, really good. It fills out its 8 parts really, really well. It doesn't really drag, so I actually really enjoy this. I love when he's on the ground and the photographer's taking pictures and he just kind of preens for the camera. Absolutely adorable. Number 4 on the list is the Macroterra. And I really think I like this one this much because of the animation. I think this is the one story where if they found the live action episodes and showed them to me, I might prefer the animated version. The animated version with the liberties they take, because the Macroterra visually, it has such a notorious reputation for having been not so great. So the fact they took so many liberties with the animation, I think works in the animation's favor here. And the macro themselves look so much better. So I actually really like it. It's the only one I can think of where I like the color version just as much as the black and white version, because I think they're two different viewing experiences. I really do feel different watching it in color than I do from black and white. And I enjoy watching it in both. It's a very good story. This is also the best the animation has been since they changed the animation style with Power. I really think this is kind of the gold standard right here where the bar is at. And I think it's because they use that Sun and Moon animation studios, and I think those people know what they're about. And my personal theory is that that was expensive to do, and that the BBC has cheaped out and just not used them again because they don't want to pay them the money. And because of that, none of the animations since Macra have been as good as Macra, and they've slowly been going downhill ever since. I really think they need to get Sun and Moon Studios back to work on another story, because Macroterra's animation is very fluid, whereas like Fury's is very choppy, and everything looks kind of like South Park characters in the way they move. Macro's has a very fluid and realistic movement to the way the characters move that I really enjoy, and it really sells me on the animation. And because of that, I like the Macroterra. Plus, I actually enjoy the story. I think the story is pretty good too. Another one of those ones where you run into paradise and you quickly realize it's not really paradise. Number 3 on the list is the War Games. I do like the War Games. I actually feel like it does its 10 parts pretty well, actually. I know some people think it does run a little long, and it does get repetitive in a bit. They are getting captured a lot, but I think it fills its runtime pretty well, especially with 10 episodes to get through. Of course, episode 10 is one of the most iconic, essential episodes in Doctor Who history, but I do find the whole story very enjoyable, How dare you? Well, how dare you? I love that. I love Troughton when he bluffs, man. Troughton goes big when he bluffs. I absolutely love it. Number 2 on the list is the Moonbase. I love the Moonbase. Of all of the animations, the Moonbase is my favorite. I love that Theta animation, or whatever it's called, that style that Planet 55 used in other stories as well, Reign of Terror and 10th Planet, but I think they really perfected it here. I really wish they would have used this style when they were originally planning to animate Underwater Menace like the original plan was. I would love to have seen Underwater Menace with this kind of animation for its missing episodes. I enjoy the Moonbase. Troughton is good here. This is the story where he gives his famous speech about there are some corners of the universe which have bred the most terrible things. That's from this story. The Cybermen are really creepy here. I don't really care for the three-fingered look they have. Their cyber design is not the best, but it still looks pretty good. It still looks intimidating. Jamie's knocked out for a lot of it because I have a feeling they just hadn't written the story with him originally in mind, so he's kind of unconscious for a lot of it. But yeah, and plus I really like a lot of the guest actors in it too, even though a couple of them we only really get to see a lot. The animation's really well done. In the animation especially, seeing the Cybermen walking on the moon, it's pretty cool. The actual animation of them walking around on the moon looks better than the live action of them walking around the moon. It's really creepy. There's a lot of shots of the Cybermen, even in close-up in the animation. Just the way they did the animation, they look really, really creepy. Really good story. And number 1 on the list is Power of the Daleks. And it is a testament to how good this story is that my favorite Troughton story, especially as someone who prefers Troughton live-action episodes because you can really see the Doctor's face, and so much of Troughton's acting is done with his physicality, with his face and his body language. The fact that my favorite Troughton story is an animated one where you don't quite get all of that just goes to show just how good this story is, and I love Power of the Daleks. There's so much this story had to do and had to accomplish, and it pulls all of it off. Not only is it a good post-regeneration story, it's a good, for the first time ever, post-regeneration story. Really having to sell people on this new Doctor, really having to introduce him to an audience that wasn't aware of the fact the Doctor could do this. You know, we take that for granted now. We know the Doctor regenerates. But also it had to be a good Dalek story. It had to be just a good story in general. It pulls all of that off. The Daleks are at arguably their best here. See, I love stories that remember the Daleks are geniuses. The Daleks, they're not robots. They're living beings in these things, and they are smart. The Daleks are very intelligent, and they're very manipulative, and they don't mind using humanity's weaknesses against them to get what they want. Like, they will play to our follies and our flaws and manipulate us if it helps them meet their ends. That's why they'll pretend to be our friends and then betray us as soon as we're not needed anymore. Plus, the Dalek voices are so good in the story. I really, really love the Dalek voices in this story. They're a lot better than a lot of the voices that came later. They're genuinely creepy. And hearing a Dalek say something like, "I am your servant," is just creepy. And that scene when they're making more Daleks is so iconic and so creepy. Watching Lesterson snap is just so creepy. It's such a good story. It really is. I love Power of the Daleks. It ranked, I think, number 2 when I was ranking the Daleks list, because Genesis and Power are almost tied for number 2 with the episode Dalek being number 1. But the fact that it ranks that high and it's only in animated form just is a testament to how good this story is. So that is my ranking for the second Doctor era. I'm curious, what do you think? What do you agree with on my list? What do you disagree with on my list? Are you ready to do something bad for me because I put Crotons higher than Web of Fear? Again, if you ask me tomorrow, that could flip-flop. My list is fluid. It does change. But comment down below. I'd like to hear your list for how you would rank the Troughton stories and why you feel that way. Other things to do, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications. I have started a Patreon page if you would like to support me on that. Just added a new tier level. It's just a little entry $2 tier level if you would like to donate just $2 a month. It kind of contribute to what I am doing if you enjoy watching my videos and help support the stuff I import. There are higher tier levels as well, things that get you things like video requests, and in some of them multiple video requests per month for things you would like to hear me talk about. If that is of interest to you, check that out down in the link below. I got my first patron the other day, Michael. I was very, very grateful for that. A very special thank you to him. Most importantly, though, stay safe out there, and thank you for watching.